Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to the Marco Dre Show, everybody. It's Thursday, November 20th, 2025. Thank you for tuning in today's show to hear all the relevant, groundbreaking news here in America and around the world, the only show where the facts are facts and hard truths always thrive. Please don't forget to follow the show. Give it 5 stars if you can on whatever platform you might view it on. Share with whoever needs to hear the truth so we can make thinking the norm again in America. I hope everyone's ready for the best hour radio has to offer, uncensored and ready to go as always. Let's hit the ground running. I want to begin with an article that I didn't get into yesterday regarding the redistricting maps of Texas. And of course, it was blocked by a federal judge. We're going to get into that momentarily. But first, I want to make a correction from some information that I gave you yesterday regarding Prince Mohammed bin Salman's visit to the White House. And yesterday, we were discussing a reporter bringing up the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, who is a Saudi national and also a Virginia state resident and also a journalist for the Washington Post. And yesterday, President Trump kind of glossed over this really quickly, saying he had nothing to do with it, this and that. But I found some research after the show, so I want to correct myself, because I kind of made it sound like it wasn't as big a deal as it actually is. So I want to correct myself. In 2018, this is true, this is coming from the CIA, actually, Prince Mohammed bin Salman actually ordered the killing of the Washington Post reporter, Jamal Khashoggi, in Istanbul, Turkey, at a Saudi consulate. And again, Khashoggi, who is a Saudi Arabian citizen, a Virginia state resident, obviously he's a journalist for the Washington Post, he was cut up with a bone saw, folks. Just so we're all clear on this. He was butchered. And again, as I read to you yesterday, President Trump kind of played this off. And again, I apologize for that. But saying that Khashoggi was a controversial figure, a lot of people didn't like him, and that's what he was kind of referring to. Further stating, but Prince Mohammed knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that. That's what was said yesterday. And I kind of said, okay, so, they're met with this question, they got through it, and they continued the dialogue with each other. And I kind of talked about the proposals that were brought up during their meeting yesterday as a success. And while the meeting largely was a success, we need to understand something. This man actually ordered the killing of an American citizen, a Washington Post journalist. And he kind of played it off as well. We need to investigate it. We need to do the right thing. But he knows all about it because he ordered the killing. So, we've got to make sure we understand what's actually happening here. And again, Judge Andrew Napolitano brought this up yesterday on his podcast, Judging Freedom, which I recommend everyone to watch and follow. But he said that the CIA in 2021 confirmed that in declassified documents that bin Salman actually ordered the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. Now, obviously, clearly he knew this happened. You don't remember you ordered someone to be killed with a bone saw? In a Saudi consulate in Istanbul? Come on. And again, clearly, it's, someone being controversial or not liked is no reason to kill someone, folks. Just want to bring that up to you. At least of us, those that believe in freedom, of course. So again, my apologies for kind of, not bringing that up yesterday on yesterday's show. So I wanted to correct myself. So think about this. We had al-Jolani, the new de facto president of Syria, in the White House last week, that has killed Americans in the past. We're told he's, this, great stooge. Great president, of course, great leader. Definitely not working with the United States on building a new military base in Damascus, of course. The president of Syria, of course, despite, killing Christians right now, Druze, Alawites, Kurds. Not to forget that he was on the Americans' top terrorist most wanted list with a bounty of $10 million on his head. No issue there, right? But this guy's an actual terrorist for Al-Qaeda and ISIS that killed people by beheading them and even cutting off their hands. So this guy is no role model for anybody. And again, we just drop these things. Oh, no, he's a great guy. I like him. We work with him. Again, he's another useful puppet to the United States, this guy. This is not someone you want breaking bread in the White House. So again, I shake my head at this. And then, of course, we come to find out yesterday, or at least I found out yesterday. Fast forward to Tuesday now, bin Salman is a great guy, of course, minus the butchering of an American journalist for the Washington Post. Again, they're whitewashing what happened, pretending to ignore this, to be ignorant of the facts. Why not just come out and say, yes, this happened. Wasn't right, but this happened. Well, I mean, they're never going to admit to it, of course, but address it. Now, do I think a foreign leader is going to say, yes, I ordered somebody to be killed? Of course not. That's why he kind of played around. Well, we're looking into the investigation, and this was wrong, this and that. But they don't take any culpability for what happened. So I wanted to share that with you just to kind of make that correction. So we're all clear on things that, yes, it was actually the Crown Prince that actually did authorize the murder of this Washington Post journalist, Jamal Khashoggi. And again, we need to make sure we always keep the facts where they need to be, right in front of us. So we need to understand that. So the fact that President Trump downplayed this, again, to me is ridiculous. Take responsibility for your actions, for God's sakes. And again, I'm not expecting that to happen in the White House. I mean, that's wishful thinking. I'm not going to hold my breath on that. But I mean, just say if you're going to try to BS us, just say, listen, we're not going to comment on that right now. There was an investigation on it. We're going to look into it. That's all you have to say. Now, he had no idea this was happening. Yes, he does. He ordered it. Even our CIA under the President Trump found this information. That was divulged in 2021. Come on. So complete ridiculousness on that front. So yeah, not a good not a good way to address the Crown Prince. But yes, this did actually happen, folks. So we need to be aware of this. All right, what's happening in Texas now? What's happening in Texas? Well, a federal court on Tuesday blocked Texas from its use of a redrawn U.S. map that touched off a national-wide redistricting battle, as many of you know, of course, by this point, and is a major piece of President Donald Trump's efforts to preserve a slim Republican majority ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. So, what happened in this situation on Tuesday? There was a decision by 3 judges, and it was a 2-1 decision followed by nearly 2 weeks of trials in El Paso, and Texas expected appeal would be directly given to the U.S. Supreme Court. And what they found was, they said that the public perception of this case is that it's about politics. To be sure, politics played a role in the redrawing of the 2025 map, but it's more than just politics. Substantial evidence shows that Texas racially gerrymandered the 2025 map. We have a Trump judge, an Obama judge, and then a Reagan judge giving the nay vote in this 2-1 vote. And the case was brought forward by a coalition of civil rights groups that represent Black and Hispanic voters and argue that the maps actually reduce the influence of the minority votes, making it a racial gerrymander. That violates, of course, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and, of course, the United States Constitution. Okay. So what are they actually alleging here? They're suggesting that the way that these maps were redistricted takes away the voting for minority groups. So again, I find this a little strange. We're saying, okay, you could take the voting rights away from one group, but not these other two because they're minority groups in America. And again, these are called coalition groups, by the way. And Harmeet Dillon, the Assistant U.S. Attorney General overseeing this division of this U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, she stated that, citing a ruling last year made by the conservative federal groups for the Court of Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, she went on to say that these so-called coalition districts, where no group has a majority, but the minority groups together outnumber the non-Hispanic white voters, it should be dismantled, and these vestiges of unconstitutional, racially based gerrymandering of the past need to end. So let me get this straight. They're arguing that because the black and Hispanic votes are outweighed by the white votes in these districts now. You're taking away their ability to vote for whom they would like to vote for. This is what the majority said. They said the legislature adopted those racial objectives. The redistricting bill's sponsors made numerous statements suggesting that they had intentionally manipulated the districts and their lines to create a more majority Hispanic and majority black districts. So again, they're trying to, I guess, use race to say, hey, you're making this racial. Again, I don't understand this at all. This is a bit stupid. But what's really going on here? They don't want these Republican districts. That's what it comes down to. The State Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, didn't make any immediate comments regarding this, what happened. But we know right now that there's 25 Republican seats of the 38 congressional seats of Texas. Democrats holding 13. And, of course, they would like 30 congressional seats going to Republicans, a 10-point swing. Democrats don't want this. So now all of a sudden race plays an issue with this. Well, let me just make something clear. You cannot racially draw congressional seats based just primarily on race. But they're using race in their description to shoot this down. They're saying, whoa, you can't take voting rights away from minorities. Oh, the majority, sure, why not? Oh, if it's a white population, fine, that's okay. But now they're accusing Texas of racially gerrymandering because the federal courts found substantial evidence that the maps intentionally diluting the voting power for black and Latino communities. But it's okay if you do it to the white communities. It's okay. If it's a native-born population, it's okay if you dilute that. That's fine. Don't worry about it. But if it's any other group, what about the Asian groups of Texas? Are they brought up in any of this? Are they not being heard? This is what it comes down to. If you can gerrymander in Massachusetts, in Connecticut, in Illinois, if you get New Mexico, now California, like this, where it's strictly, we're going to get more Democratic votes. Even though most of these states are over 40% Republican. They have zero representation. How the hell's that good? How the hell's that right? Has nothing to do with race. They're just simply drawing these districts where they can leverage more power. And so now they're saying, oh, no. You've taken the power away from these two demographics, that largely, by and large, and I do think the Latino vote is shifting, though, but by and large, they were strongholds for Democrats. And if you're diluting their power in these districts now, they're not going to get heard. All of a sudden, they care about this now. They've said nothing in any of these other states. New Mexico, Illinois, Massachusetts, right? Connecticut, they have zero representation. Zero Republican representation. I think Maine is also the same way, too. Zero Republican representation despite being fairly large swaths of the population. I'm going to say New Mexico's 45% votes Republican. They have zero representation in the House. Tell me how that's fair. Nobody says a damn thing about that. Hey, you're taking the votes away from the Republican minorities. The political minorities. Oh, well, we can't say that. No, that's fine. No, that's totally fine. So long as the minority groups have their say, everything is honky-dory. That's what they're trying to say here. This is ridiculous. I'm sure this is going to go up to the Supreme Court. But understand this. It is illegal under the U.S. Constitution to create districts solely based on race. So we need to understand. So if they're coming and saying, hey, this is a coalition district, we need to make sure that the voting rights are heard from the minority groups in this district based on their race. How could they say that? So again, to me, this is all just ridiculousness. Why can't we just draw maps and let the chips fall as they may, you know? But this is where we are right now, this country. So now Texas is doing something unconstitutional, but it's okay in California. And they can come out blatantly and say, hey, you know what? We're taking away Republican representation. We're going to knock it down to, I think, 17%? If that. I mean, it's something low like that. 11, 17% of the state now will be represented when roughly 43% of the state votes Republican. by and large, especially inland California. We're going to cut all that away. Now, there are a lot of Latinos in inland California. There's lots of whites in inland California, too, especially in Northern California. That's okay. You can cut their representation in a state where, hey, by the way, just so we're all clear on this, whites are really a minority. There's no really super majority in that state. I think whites make up 34% of the overall state. But that's okay. You can do that in California. Nothing wrong there. Absolutely fine. And if it's a Republican, hey, totally fine. Take away that district, collapse it upon itself, have two different congressmen or women vying for the same seat. That's okay. Just not in Texas, where the population is going to increase. I mean, realistically, we don't even know what's going to happen in these districts now. They're brand new districts. Maybe the people coming into these districts are Republicans. Maybe they're Democrats. We don't know. That's why we have elections. Otherwise, what the hell's the point of it all? But this is what's happening. They're trying to stonewall Texas. Just Texas, though. None of the other states that are doing it. Everything else is totally fine. What California's doing is great. Massachusetts, Connecticut, they can keep doing whatever the hell they want. New Mexico, Illinois, keep screwing Republicans out of getting representation. And that's okay. Not a word said about it. No one has any issues with it. Just Republicans. Just Republicans. Again, if we're going to allow gerrymandering, this is what it is, folks. And by the way, I don't think California didn't gerrymander prior to this, just so we're all clear on that. Unfortunately, I had to live through much of that. All right. So we'll see what happens with the Supreme Court. I'm sure they will be weighing in on that very, very soon to see if it's constitutional or not, or what exactly is being alleged is actually happening, and if it is constitutional or not. Some big news happened today. And this is an RT, by the way. It says, U.S. peace plan proposes Ukraine give up sovereignty. And I woke up to this. I said, what is going on here? Apparently, there's a U.S. proposed peace plan to resolve the Ukraine conflict. Moscow has denied any confirmation that they're involved in this, but requires concessions from Kiev and would allow it to give up its sovereignty, is what has been told to Axios and the Financial Times. So this 28-point peace draft and this framework agreement was reportedly delivered to Kiev this week by U.S. President Donald Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff. And most of you are asking yourself, okay, so what's in this 28-point peace plan? Well, they want to make it clear, this is coming from Witkoff, making it clear that he wants Vladimir Zelensky, I think it's Vladimir Zelensky, who is meeting a senior U.S. military team on Thursday, that'd be today. And according to Axios and the Financial Times, the proposed plan is actually going to require Ukraine to relinquish parts of the new Russian regions in the Donbass, still occupied by Kiev, cut the size of its armed forces by half, and abandon the key categories of weaponry. And of course, a rollback of U.S. military assistance is also in this framework. Other things also include Ukraine maintaining neutrality, staying out of NATO and other military blocs, demilitarize and denazify, whatever the hell that means, and accept the current territorial reality. So it sounds like, to me, the Trump State Department has actually come to the realization that they can't win this war. And they need to save face somehow. And what's the way that they can save face? Well, they come and say, hey, we're going to propose this peace plan with you. You're going to give away this territory. It will cause Russia to stop invading and advancing on your territory and killing innocent people and your military that is decimated right now. There's no way out of this for them. And I think the EU, I think the United States have finally looked at this and said, how much longer will we keep this going? Because Russia just continues to take more land. They've passed the Dnieper River right now. They're advancing further west. But the thing is, Vladimir Putin doesn't want all of Ukraine. That's the problem. But they're continuing on because Ukraine has continually instigated this war to go on. They're not talking. They're not sitting down. So now the United States is coming and saying, hey, listen, we're going to propose this peace plan to you on behalf of Russia with all these points in it. And hopefully you say yes. And we look like we're the heroes. despite the fact that we spent $350 billion, probably more than that now, on this failed war, this proxy war that we've gotten ourselves involved in thanks to the Biden administration. And never forget the Biden administration rejected the initial peace proposal a month into this war, by the way. Good old Joey Biden. Yep. Good old Sleepy Joe. Him and Boris Johnson. Yep. Of the UK. Scrapped a peace deal, which kept this conflict going on. Why? Because I told you before, they like war. You make a lot of money off war, right? So that's why this is continuing on. But I think the powers that be see this is not going anywhere. Things are coming to a standstill. And Russia keeps taking more and more land. So now do you want Russia to, take all of Ukraine? I don't think they want that either. They want that buffer zone between, obviously, Ukraine and Russia to exist. They want that territory. So here's my position. And again, I told you this weeks ago, if not months ago when we were talking about this. I said, what has to happen for peace to become a realization here, to become a reality? I said, number one, Ukraine cannot join NATO. I said this. I said they must give up the territory that Vladimir Putin wants, that he's currently occupying, the Donetsk, the Luhansk, Kharkiv, and Zaporizhia, and, of course, maintain Crimea, because that's where their fleet is. I said they're not going to give up this territory. If they try to keep this territory, the war is just going to continue on. And, of course, they want this to be annexed as a part of Russia now. That's what it's going to come down to. They want to demilitarize. I said that before. And again, like clockwork, this is now all in the proposal, because this is the reality of the situation now. So, will Zelensky approve it? Will he not approve it? Probably not. Maybe with enough little push here, maybe he'll start to figure out that he's locked in here. But it's not going to sit well with the oligarchs of his country that are completely corrupt just like he is. In fact, he'll probably have to flee the country should he give up this territory, I would have to say. This is going to upset a lot of people, I'm sure. This is going to be very good for the Russian ethnic population in these regions that have been under fire by the Azov Battalion for quite some time now. But this is what Putin wants. And by the way, the document also reportedly stipulates recognizing Russian as an official language in the, obviously, state language in Ukraine, and of course granting official status to the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, which is obviously the largest church Christian denomination inside the country right now. And Zelensky's government has cracked down on it over its historic ties with Russia. So Putin wants that relationship with the Ukrainian Orthodox Church because that's where really the Russian Orthodox Church began, was in this region. Just so we're all clear on this, it started in Kiev. Again, most people don't know their history, so they say, well, he just wants all of Ukraine. No, he doesn't. He doesn't want to decimate all of Ukraine. It's a home of the Orthodox Church. So he's not going to do that. So, a Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, did not confirm the proposal and said that there's nothing new in the U.S.-Russian talks beyond anything that was discussed between President Putin and President Donald Trump in Alaska. So here's what I think. When they had this meeting, Putin laid this out partly clearly on the table to President Trump that, hey, listen, I'm going forward in this if these provisions are not met. And it took President Trump a while, but I think he's seen the realization that we've got to stop this. Because they're not going to win. And again, would that look good on President Trump's resume? Do they continue to bolster this war? Killing more Ukrainians? Or can we actually keep Ukraine intact somewhat and, of course, give Russia what it wants, which, of course, are these regions where their ethnic Russian population is safe and protected by Russia. And again, the people in this region voted on this, but Putin declined this. So I think right now that would be a positive thing to see. I think it would get peace talks moving. And I think Russia will appreciate this if all these provisions are met. Now, we don't have all 28 proposals in this. I don't know if there's anything Russia has to give up as of right now. But this right now seems to be a fairly decent peace plan that I think Russia could get behind. Maybe make some changes here or there. But never forget this. Russia is the victor in this war. Russia has won this war. They have been winning this war. They have not been deterred at any point whatsoever in this entire conflict. And do I think anything's going to change about that? I think they're going to say, listen, here's what we want. If you want this war to stop, this is what we need to see happen. We need in writing from Zelensky or whomever in the government will sign off on this to agree to these peace terms. And that's the end result of this. We could have had this a month into this. I said we're working on almost 4 years come next February. So a little bit too long, but at least some type of peace proposal is being brought up. So I can't argue with this. I don't want to see peace. I've wanted to see peace in this. And I'm sure many of you wanted to see peace as well. So at least we can save part of Ukraine in the conflict as well. So moving forward, we'll see how Russia responds to this. Right now, we haven't really received any information at all. We have senior Russian negotiator Kirill Dmitriev telling Axios, which first reported the plan, that it was more than a ceasefire arrangement, and saying that we feel the Russian position is really being heard. So they don't want a ceasefire. That's what President Trump was pushing in Alaska. Zelensky wants a ceasefire because he wants to rearm. Putin wants a peace proposal and end of the war. And he knows how these ceasefires work. The conflict stops for a brief period of time, and then, of course, it kicks up again. He wants it in writing, exactly what Russia wants, and I'm sure Sergei Lavrov will weigh in on this at some point today as well. Once everything has been read in this and understood, and we'll figure out exactly what's happening in this entire situation. So, again, good thing. I like seeing peace. I like that the Trump administration is pushing peace, and I hope to see peace hopefully soon. So that's a positive for today. I think we all can agree on all this. All right, moving on. Paul Craig Roberts. Why are Americans being placed under a Speech Tsar? What's he talking about here? Oh, he's absolutely right about this too, by the way. It says here, President Trump's alliance with Israel is giving us Rabbi Yehuda Kaplan, I believe that's how you say his last name, as special envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism. We've seen this whole conflict kind of spurring up as of late. But the special envoy's job is to suppress free speech if it involves any type of criticism of any Israeli policy, the state of Israel, including the ongoing genocide of Palestinians and its remaining people, Probably it would be considered anti-Semitism to criticize the Trump regime for, enabling with money, weapons, and, of course, diplomatic protection of the genocide as well. But this special envoy is said to be needed because of the rising anti-Semitism in America, provoked by the Israeli genocide of the Palestinians. The genocide caused Charlie Kirk to break from Israel. We see this in his latest text, of course, and is likely the thing that resulted in his assassination. We can't confirm or deny that. There's no evidence of that because, again, we have no information on even where this bullet is that killed him. I think one of his security sat down with Sean Ryan's podcast this week and said, yep, the bullet stopped in his vertebrae. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Is this guy kidding me? Does anyone believe that a 30-06 round from 150, 200 yards away would stop in someone's vertebrae? Folks, just to be honest with you, that bullet would go right through him. I'm sorry to say that. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. The bullet would go right through his vertebrae. It would break it in half. That's how strong those rounds are. Again, you have a round the size of the male ring finger going through you. That's not stopping. They try to say in the interview, oh, yeah, it kind of spun around and it's stuck now inside of him. Okay. This guy's never fired a gun before. Okay, all right, well, whatever. But the people that have no idea what's going on, oh, yeah, it's stuck in the vertebrae. But why can't they find the bullet then? Can anyone explain that? No, of course they can. That's the reality of the situation, though. The lies behind what Charlie Kirk was moving towards, of course. And again, I'm not going to speak for Charlie. Only he can. Or could, excuse me. But the idea that his position wasn't shifting when it clearly via text to various people and people he spoke with have been saying, I can only go on that. I can't, again, say exactly how he felt. And again, I don't think Charlie Kirk was shifting away from the state of Israel or the Israeli people, but I think he was moving away from this conflict in the Middle East. And I don't know. We don't know. We simply don't know because we have no idea who killed Charlie Kirk. That's what it comes down to. We're being told this Tyler Robinson. It's not obviously him. He's the patsy of this whole thing. So, that being said, he says that Rabbi Kaplan, I believe I say the name again, dressed it all up as a defense of free speech. So he says that he's going to combat growing anti-Semitism, not by canceling the First Amendment, but by teaching history, by which he means history concocted by the Zionists. He said it is the history, quote unquote, such as the Holocaust and the God's gift of Palestine to the Jews, that would be an offense to challenge. So we see how these things are coming to now. We see the part of the right going attacking the other side of the right in this whole situation. Obviously saying, this side's anti-Semitic, this side's a Nazi, this side's a bigot, this side's, all this other nonsense. I always say, and I've said this before, debate each other then. Let the people decide. If you both feel your sides are strongly supported by facts and data, then bring it up. Debate each other. Say, you said X, Y, and Z. Here's why you're wrong. Here's the evidence that shows it. And let the person rebuttal and talk back. And that way we have a conversation about it. We could say anything behind a microphone. Where is the evidence? You say X, Y, and Z is a Nazi. Okay, where's the evidence for this? Okay, first of all, the Nazis have been out of existence for over 80 years, just so we're all clear on that. And by the way, they never even called themselves Nazis. Just wanted to tell you that as well. But this, do we have a special envoy for anti-Christian rhetoric? Because there's plenty of that in America. Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about that momentarily. And by the way, the same thing that goes for anti-Islamic rhetoric, too. Can we not question anything in society? That's the whole purpose of these things. So, as we experience Israel's growing power over America, a question arises. This is what Paul Craig Roberts is saying. He says, is the camp of saints so bad after all? Would Americans prefer to be dominated by Israel or Muslim refugees from America's 21st century wars for Israel against Muslims? Now, allegedly, Muslims are terrorists, but we have seen the Zionist terrorism in Gaza, the West Bank, and in the Israeli assassinations of Iranians and Lebanese. He says, Zionist hatred of even the Gentiles, who are Israel's protectors, is a suspected cause of the attacks of Christianity, and, of course, the use of pornography to destroy sexual morality. Again, his words. So he goes on to say, because the special envoy problem now before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, owned by Israel, which he means the people in the committee are owned by Israel, is unrecognized by Republicans, but is causing heartburn for Democrats. He says the Democrats' constituency includes the Muslim immigrant invaders, some of whom now serve in Congress, as federal judges, as mayors, city council members. And America's transition towards a Tower of Babel has gone so far that Israel's ability to control what the Japanese called a mongrel population is questionable here. And I can't help but laugh about all this because, he's right about all this. He says people of color are a rival privileged ethnicity to Jews, and they are more numerous. They are likely consequence of a special envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism will be more in worsening conflict between Democrats and Republicans. He says it will be the Republican Jewish constituency against the Democrats' people of color constituency. So we see these two sides converging on this topic, of course, and it's coming to a head right now. And it's coming to, I guess, this verbal civil war that we seem to find ourselves in. Again, I told you this before. Freedom of speech is protected by all speech. Just because someone doesn't like certain things that you're saying or doing doesn't mean that they are instantly wrong. Let's understand that. Now, there's certain people that have certain feelings and sentiments towards the state of Israel. Okay, that's fine. But when you come out and say, you know what, you're not really MAGA, you're not really America First, you're not really a conservative, you're not this, you're actually a Nazi, anti-Jewish, this and that. How is that constructive to a debate, to a dialogue? It's one side trying to shut up the other side. This is exactly what's happening now. So they're trying to cancel people by saying, you know what, we're just not going to debate. We're not going to do this. You're wrong. We've got all these people behind us, and we'll just simply stomp you out that way. Is that right? Should Tucker Carlson not have a show to do? I mean, I highly doubt you're going to stop Tucker Carlson. But let's be realistic here. The creation of this special envoy is to protect the Jewish ethnicity from any type of criticism. Should raise the question why among all ethnicities is it Israelis that the United States government elects to give special privileges to that prevent anything to which Israel objects from being said. Why is that? Why can't we criticize the state of Israel? Can we? Of course we can. And again, this legal privilege now contradicts the Constitution's requirement for equal protection under the law. So again, why are Trump and the Senate Foreign Policy Committee violating the United States Constitution for a foreign state, for Israel? And again, if you love Israel, if you have, admiration for the state of Israel, fine, whatever, I don't care. If you want to practice Judaism, I don't care. Practice whatever the hell you want. Practice religion, don't practice religion. But again, why are we making special provisions to protect a foreign state? I don't understand this. This is the part I guess I don't understand about all this. And again, who gets to define what anti-Semitism is? That's the problem too. Same thing with hate speech. Oh, it's hate speech. Really? Hate speech? Because you're talking about a certain issue that people don't want you to talk about? So we've seen this before. We have hate speech. We have conspiracy theories. We use anti-Semitism in the case of the state of Israel. How do we get through this? How can we talk to each other if we're going to continue to just throw name-calling at each other? We should be able to talk about what's happening in the Middle East. I mean, hell, we're the ones that fund their entire military. We pay their military benefits. We pay for their college tuitions in Israel. Did you know that? We also pay for other economic aid in Israel. And we can't have any say in what happens there and what goes on there. We should have everything to say what goes on there. I mean, without us, they wouldn't survive economically. They wouldn't be able to defend themselves, certainly. That's why during the bombings, I was telling you, it's costing Americans $285 million a day. Every single day of this Israel-Iranian war. Again, that Trump gave the green light to go ahead and do, by the way, just so we're all clear on that. So, again, we have a speech czar now? So what? If we say something online, they don't like it, they're going to come in, delete us? Report us? Take us off? Demonetize us? What's going on here? All these things should be out in the open. If a foreign state is doing something they should not be, like what we're seeing inside Gaza right now, and again, I don't say this because I hate a group of people or hate Jews or anything like that. Grow up, please. Please grow up. I mean, it'd be like criticizing Ukraine right now. What, are you anti-Ukraine? No, I'm not anti-Ukraine. I want this war to stop. I know what's happening. I know what they're doing with the money. I know who's getting rich off it over there. I know why they want this. Again, you listen to the politicians of Israel. They're saying there's no such thing as a Palestinians. Palestinians don't exist. Yet the slaughter goes on. 22 people killed in Gaza yesterday. Were you told that by the mainstream media? Of course you weren't. So what, am I anti-Semitic because I brought it up? This is the problem about what we're talking about here. What constitutes as anti-Semitism? Criticism? And again, if we're going to have an anti-Semitic board or speech czar, can we have it for Christians as well? Are we going to have an anti-Republican speech czar as well? Or anti-Democrat? Well, you say what you're saying here is really anti-Democrat. You can't talk anymore. Oh, you're really anti-LGBTQXYZWTUV because, hey, you don't want kids to be, subjected to perversion in public schools or women going to the restroom with men. Oh, you must be a transphobe. Oh, it's anti-trans speech you're doing. Okay, you can't say that anymore. This is what's becoming. I asked you on Monday's show. I said, would the Founding Fathers even recognize this country if they were placed here in 2025? I don't think they would recognize a damn thing about this country. And I'm not alone in that camp as well. Free speech is free speech, folks. I don't have to like what certain people say, but they have the right to say it. They do. We're allowed this by the Constitution. And there's no way around it. You can't get around it. The government has no right to come in and say, hey, you can't do this. Hey, you can't do that. Well, you can criticize this group, but not that group. You can't do that. It's illegal. Now, if someone is promoting violence towards people of a certain ethnicity or a certain country, that's something completely different. We should object to all of that as Americans, as conservatives, as people who believe in our Constitution and the values in them. That's wrong. To go out and commit violence? By the way, I saw this too. It was in Fox News. Let me see if I can pull it up quickly. I didn't get it for the show today, but I actually just saw this in New York City. Let me see if I can find it while I'm talking to everybody. And again, it just makes me shake my head that these types of things are going on in the world today in which we live. Yes, here we go. Here we go. Let me see. Oh, wait, wrong one. That's New York Post. Where's my Fox News? There we go. Forgive me, folks. It says, breaking. Oh, it isn't the New York Post. It wasn't Fox News. It says, anti-Semitic mob descends on historic New York City synagogue, urging the resistance to take another settler out. This is happening in New York City right now. It says, we see you selling stolen land. This is what the protesters are holding up. Protesting is one thing. Protesting is one thing. To, again, descend on a mosque where people are worshiping and talking about, again, the resistance, take another settler out, these types of rhetoric, chanting globalize the intifada, again, this is not right. You have no right to threaten other people. You have no right to go to people's house of worship and start, throwing out these accusations. Again, Jews in New York City? What do you think? They have something to do with what's happening in the Middle East? Now, maybe some support what's happening. I don't know. But it's a largely Jewish population in New York City. We all can understand that. And now they're going to go to this synagogue and they're going to threaten people. This is what we're seeing now. So is it right that people go into a church and they don't like something that, I don't know, any denomination has done, say, for example, and start shouting out the same things? Is that right? By the way, we have seen that too in America as of late too. But this is what's happening right now in New York City. So again, we have to understand there's a difference between freedom of speech, letting your voices be heard, and actually threatening other people. We know what globalize the intifada means. We know what that means. And again, the clashing of these two religions is what's going on right now. And again, folks, what is, are we going to achieve something by this? To create more division? Of course not. Of course not. By the way, did our future mayor of New York City, Mom Dummy, say anything about this? Did he come out and condemn it? Now, he said he's going to protect Jews in New York City. I don't know if he's going to do that or not. He's not the mayor yet. Well, where's Eric Adams, by the way? He was just in Israel, saying he's done everything for the Jews. Why aren't they protecting the people of the synagogue? Are they there on the ground? Are they saying, listen, this is an unlawful protest. You can't just go up to a, house of worship and start shouting these things out at people that have absolutely nothing to do with what the hell you're talking about, first of all. I mean, this is the stupidity behind this whole situation. It's very, very sophomoric mentally as well, I'd have to say. Again, you have a right to have your voice be heard. You don't have a right to threaten people or allude to violence as what's happening here with these slogans they're throwing out at people. It's not right, folks. All right, by the way, Dearborn, Michigan was heating up too. There was some anti-Islamic protests happening in Dearborn just a couple days ago, overwhelmed by Muslim activists. So there was a clash in Dearborn, which was actually a city formed by Henry Ford himself. And I want to read this to you because, again, it's just showing you, not that people, again, shouldn't have their voices heard, but we're seeing how the clash of these religions is just not working out for us here in America. So this was on Fox 2 in Detroit, I believe. It says it was a clash of religious and cultural views in Dearborn on Tuesday as an alt-right group rallied to condemn Islam, only to be overwhelmed by a large group of Muslim activists determined to promote peace. Okay. So the heated clashes and shouting matches took place across downtown Dearborn and at City Hall, with far-right activists making critical statements of Islam and Muslim protesters not taking any of that lightly, speaking up in defense of their faith and, of course, their culture. So just so we're all clear on this, too, Dearborn is roughly, I believe, 54-ish% Muslim. Most people coming from the Middle East, most are Arab, and also some people from North Africa as well. Some in this group are Christians, just so we're all clear on that. This is all one caliphate. But by and large, the group of people we're talking about are mostly Muslims. It's just so we're understanding that. So one right-wing organizer's social media page called it a Christian crusade on Dearborn, but it was filled with anti-Islamic rhetoric. Well, again, who gets to decide that? What is he saying? I'm told this guy was actually pepper sprayed too. At least that's what he said in a clip. But in response, many of the members of the Dearborn Muslim community say they tried to be welcoming, but got in several people's faces shouting down the hateful speech. And again, we're not told what the hateful speech is. So again, it's hard to know what's actually being said here. But it says that the Dearborn Area Interfaith Network sent out a message to the community urging people to counter the hateful march by showing how people of diverse backgrounds help make this city a positive place to live. Okay, that's all very nice. But is that really what's always being touted? Is this interfaith group always going out and collaborating to promote peace and justice and neighborly love, is what it says here in their framework that I'm looking at right now? Is that really what it is? Here is the Dearborn mayor, and sadly I don't know his name. I don't really want to know his name, but this is what he said to a gentleman who spoke up at a city council meeting in September of this year, who said, hey, you're naming streets after people that have promoted violence. And he's read quotes about picking up stones, picking up guns, and this and that. This is what he said to him after he left the podium. I'll let it play out. He kind of retorts in the background, again, to what the mayor is saying. But this was actually said by a U.S. mayor of, well, he's a Muslim, in Dearborn, Michigan. Take a listen.
You are a bigot, and you are a racist, and you are an Islamophobe. And although you live here, I want you to know as mayor, you are not welcome here. And the day you move out of the city will be the day that I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved out of the city.
Yes, go ahead. State your name and address.
God bless you, Mayor. God bless you, sir. I think
Thank you.
also say that I'm an apostate, I'm going to hell, based on the videos that you've dropped. So if I were you, I'd sit silent.
Okay, if I were you, I'd stay silent. Little threatening there. So this is coming from the mayor of Dearborn, saying this to a man who was just making his voice be heard. He's saying, listen, the name of the person you're placing on these street signs is someone who promotes terrorism. And again, he read the quotes. He said, hey, pick up this, pick up that, pick up a gun. And they're saying, well, one of the city council members said, well, he can't speak for himself. Okay, but so what? He's saying this out loud. Why are you honoring a person who is talking about picking up bricks and stones and guns and everything? What do you think that call is for? You geniuses, you? I mean, this is, it's laughable. And they try to say, well, it was Wayne County that actually put up the sign. But he said, but hey, listen, people in this community, people in this city council were there promoting this. Should we be putting up signs that people that are promoting violence against various groups of people? And of course, they had nothing to say about it. Well, you need to talk to the county about this. Okay, all right, whatever. But this is how the mayor responds to you? You're not welcome here? In your own city? The guy says in the beginning, he says, I'm a Dearbornite. He goes, I'm from here. Because I've lived in Lebanon, I've lived in Israel. He said he's been in Israel and Palestine. Should be Gaza, rather. And this is how he's spoken about. He didn't say anything hateful towards Muslims at all. He's simply talking about the street sign honoring a guy who, again, was promoting types of violence. And this is how he's met with, by the mayor. I hope we can all see why this is a major, major problem, especially here in America. And again, if you don't keep your eye on these things, and again, the growing, Islamists here in America, which again is a true thing. And by the way, I know many people who are Muslims who are great people. They're not radical. They simply believe in their religion. They go about their day, and they're Americans. They've assimilated. People like that, this mayor, where they're putting on these sirens at 5 a.m. for calls for prayer. When they say, well, this is violating noise control. Well, no, it's not. So, again, it's okay if Muslims do it. It's okay if this group does something. You can't do anything that's anti-Semitic. But, hey, any way you want to spit on Christianity, please feel free. It's your freedom of speech, after all, right? And the lukewarm Christians aren't going to do a damn thing about it. This is the state of America today, folks. This is where we are right now as a peoples. How this tribalism is going to work out, I'm sure I don't know, but I can tell you it's probably not going to end very well if this keeps up. Just thought I'd tell you that. In Breitbart, Jim Banks is now leading Putting American Workers First Act, which I like this a lot, to more easily prosecute employers that hire illegal aliens. What is all this about? Hopefully this is also a refutation of the H-1B visas that President Trump is trying to push in. But Senators Jim Banks and Bill Cassidy are leading a bill to give the National Labor Relations Board power over investigating and prosecuting employers that hire illegal aliens. Now, they put forth this legislation on Wednesday, and it says employers who use federal government's E-Verify system, and again, this verifies a potential hire's work eligibility, would be given safe harbor under the bill. It says hiring illegal aliens drives down American wages and pushes out workers out of good-paying jobs. This is what Banks told Breitbart. He says, if employers won't follow the law, we'll use every tool we have to make sure they face consequences. This is the right way to do this. Again, people aren't going to come to America unless they know they're going to get hired. If they're going to get free this, free housing, something waiting for them. They can bring their entire family. These things need to stop. This chain migration that we see into the United States. But if they stop allowing people to take these jobs, people are going to stop coming. Because by and large, a lot of people come here to actually work. Now, they're not doing it through legal channels, which again is violating the Constitution, and they should be dealt with as well. But if we start holding employers accountable, saying, hey, listen, Home Depot, half your force here is not legal. You can't do this. You don't think they're going to stop doing that if they're facing hefty fines for all these things? I think so, folks. I think so. By the way, in addition, employers would be shielded from being prosecuted for unfair labor practices if they fired employees who they found out were illegal aliens after they were hired. Again, how do you hire someone and not know if they're legal or illegal? You have to show proof of documentation in many positions. Now, maybe some part-time jobs, maybe some jobs like consignment jobs, like, if you're working in construction, oh yeah, I got someone that can come work this job, and they pay them, day by day. Maybe that's one way to see it. But overall, you're going to know if somebody's legal or illegal, if they're getting a paycheck from you. If you're putting them on your payroll taxes, you're going to know because they're going to have the right proper documentation. So you can verify that person is whom they say they are. And again, you can't get a job in America unless you have a legal tender. So the idea that they have no idea who these people are speaks wonders, I think. Senators Tommy Tuberville and Ted Budd are the original co-sponsors of the bill, while Senator Bernie Moreno, also Republican, recently signed as a co-sponsor as well. And now, despite the estimated 8 million illegal aliens holding jobs in the United States, it's probably way more than that. Few, if any, employers are ever prosecuted for knowingly hiring illegal aliens over American citizens. That's got to stop. And I think this is the step in the right direction for this, that we get our jobs protected by Americans, as always, in the United States. We need to look out after ourselves, folks. I believe they call that America First. I think so. It's the right step in the right direction. So we'll see how this goes. It should pass. I'm very happy about this, that we're actually trying to protect American jobs. I would go a step further and say, listen, we've got to stop all legal immigration into this country until we get our border under control, until we cut down our unemployment rate, which is up right now, by the way, and we start hiring Americans. Every American that wants a job should have a job. I think we all can agree on that. It should be undercut by wages or by illegal aliens coming into this country. We need to absorb whom we have in the country that's here legally. And again, why are we bringing in H-1B visas? Why are we doing this when we have the talent here in the United States? Don't buy the rhetoric that we don't have talent in the United States. That's completely asinine in and of itself. All right, final article of the day. Let me go over this one. This is the big elephant in the room, of course. As at NBC News says, Trump signs bill to release the DOJ's Epstein files. What's going on here? Well, we knew this was going to pass, obviously. I told you that yesterday. And President Trump signed it yesterday evening. So, it's now set to compel the Justice Department to release files related to Jeffrey Epstein, capping off a months-long bipartisan push in the Congress that initially met resistance from the president, then sparked up sharp divisions within the Republican Party. Well, it did that because of President Trump. He said he was going to release the files, and all of a sudden he said it was they gave us phase 1, which is everything redacted that we already had seen. Then they said, well, we'll give you phase 2 soon. Then when asked about it, we were told it was a hoax. It was a Democratic-led hoax. And, they put this on themselves. So that made everyone go, well, what's in these files now they didn't want us to see? That was the big thing about all this. So instead of holding a public bill signing ceremony at the White House, which President Trump has done with other pieces of legislation, Trump posted on Truth Social that he had signed the measure, and he also used the post to take more digs at Democrats, repeating that it was a hoax. So if it's a hoax, then what the hell are you signing it to release? This is what I don't understand. You ran on the platform, and the campaign promised you were going to release these files. Now all of a sudden it's the Democrats that made this case up? We know the guy was arrested. We know that his girlfriend was arrested. So where's the hoax? I mean, this is what's going on here. The House overwhelmingly supported the bill, as you know. All but one Congressman, Clay Higgins, a Republican of Louisiana, voted against legislation. Other than that, it was a unanimous consent by everybody else in both the House and the Senate. So now the bill requires Pam Bondi to release all unclassified records related to Epstein within 30 days. The law permits Bondi to withhold or redact information that could jeopardize a federal investigation. So here's the problem with all this. Let's understand this. First of all, why wouldn't everything be unclassified in this situation? Why would there be an unclassified documents in a case about a sex offender? This is interesting to me. So let's understand something here. What they can do now is they can say, well, listen, this part of the case is still under investigation. Well, we can't give you this, but we can give you a couple things, right? We give you a little bit here, a little bit there, things that are, not essential to anything in the case. But this is interesting to me that they talked about classified documents and exactly what that entails. Let's understand this. Classified documents are they contain sensitive national security information, restricted to only authorized personnel that have the type of clearance to to get access to this information. And then you have, of course, unclassified information. On the other hand, does not meet any type of secrecy standards and, of course, are generally accessible to the public. So what in this case could possibly be classified? That's the part I'm trying to understand here. You can have confidential classified documents, unauthorized for disclosure, which could cause damage to the national security. I don't think that's going to happen here. In a sex trafficking case, why would that cause any threat to national security? You heard Mike Johnson utter the same things just yesterday. Just make sure it doesn't jeopardize national security. What? What in this case would jeopardize national security or put anything at risk? Ask yourself that. Then there's secret classified documents, which can cause serious damage to what I'm not sure what that would qualify in this case. And then there's top secret disclosure, which could cause exceptionally grave damage. Again, this is mostly related to military information so that, other foreign governments do not get a hold of them, like think military plans, intelligence operations, nuclear weapons data. What in this case could possibly meet those standards of a sex offender? Or a so-called dead sex offender, rather, I should say. Was this only this Epstein thing, or is there something else behind this that could be damning to our government? That's what you need to ask yourself. And again, if it is, why aren't we being told about it? That's what I'm going to ask you. So obviously there's something else rotting in Denmark here in this case. And all of a sudden, I guess the hoax is going to have more information that needs to be under investigation, which is probably going to withhold lots and lots of information. So folks, don't hold your breath on all this. I don't think we're going to get much from this. But he has signed the papers, and Pam Bondi will release whatever she decides to release to us. Whatever she's told to release to us, I should say. Folks, I hope you enjoyed the show today. Hope you'll share with some friends, and I hope I'll see you here tomorrow on the next Marco Dure Show. Until then, be good, stay busy, and God bless each and every one of you.